Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM560, The Answer.
Listen to AM560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM560 The Answer.
County state's attorneys and county sheriffs in Illinois weigh in on the Safety Act, or as it's now being perhaps more accurately called online, the Purge Law. Mm-hmm.
I love how they rename things.
I'm actually a little surprised we haven't heard from more state's attorneys and county sheriffs, given the dire straits this law would put law-abiding Illinois families in were it to take effect on January 1. Again, exporting the Chicago model of law enforcement to the rest of the state and making it the law of the land. Chicago is doing this by choice. The choices of Kim Foxx and Tim Evans and Lori Lightfoot and J.B. Pritzker. But it's not a choice that a lot of other counties want imposed on them, including counties with Democrat state's attorneys and Democrat county sheriffs. Winnebago County has weighed in. We had that op-ed in the Rockford Register-Star by Jay Hanley, who's the Will County state's attorney. We invited him to be on the show. He has not accepted our offer. Winnebago County Sheriff Gary Caruana posted a video a few days ago that we played in part the other day on the show, and we invited him to be on the show to talk about this in more detail, and he has accepted our offer, and he joins us now. Gary Caruana, County Sheriff, Winnebago County, Illinois. Gary, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning.
Morning. So just give us, the basis why you felt compelled to post this video explaining to your constituents what the Safety Act would mean for their personal safety in Winnebago County.
Hey, just a real quick correction. Jay Hanley is our state's attorney, Winnebago County, not Will.
Oh, did I say Will? I'm sorry, Winnebago County. Yeah, right, of course. Jay, that was in the op-ed that he had in the Rockford Register-Star. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
The reason I was compelled to do that is just that it just doesn't make sense. In law enforcement, it takes everything that we've known and what we try to do to protect the community, families, and give them the right to, go to a grocery store, go shop freely, and everybody's concerned and speaks with me as like the crime is really, spiking. Well, guess what? It's going to spike even more come January 1 because I have a daily population of 8 to 850, and roughly I'm letting out. Again, with this new law, I have no say about it. Roughly 400 inmates, and these crimes are serious. And I don't know if you've seen, and I know that I mentioned them on the video, but it's aggravated battery, robbery, burglary, and hate crimes. Aggravated DUI, think about that. Vehicular manslaughter, drug-induced homicide, drug offenses, including trafficking and delivery of fentanyl, which we are many times doing Narcan saves, not once, not twice, but 3 times, or if not more. Intimidation, kidnapping, second-degree murder, aggravated fleeing, and threat to public officials. And that poses a problem. It's a serious problem, and I'm just concerned that we're not going to have the freedoms that we have. I mean, if you look at the New York law and California and see what's going on there, pretty much so this models it. And this what compelled me to do the video. I'm very, very, very concerned about our public safety.
Well, people that I spoke with, like, oh, come on, Jacobson, you think they're going to let half the people out of jail? So how does that work? Just explain it to them. Because they're in jail right now for committing these crimes, so why are they going to be released?
Well, again, in the courts right now, and the judges are looking at it, who needs to be detained and who doesn't need to be detained, and how serious of the crime is it. And the ones I just explained, there's a matrix that they follow, the judicial system, the judges, before pretrial, and say, and if it doesn't fit into this House Bill 3653, this Safety Act, which I'm not sure how they named that, but it is what it is, they will be released.
The 400 or so that would be released from your jail, the Winnebago County Jail, these are mainly women who've stolen diapers for their infant children. Where we understand that from Governor Pritzker, that's who is in jail right now and who needs to be let out, and that's why the Safety Act makes perfect sense.
Well, I heard that, and I actually just came from a conference, a 3-day conference from the Illinois Sheriff's Association, and we had a guest speaker, and I had heard that. I think he spoke in Chicago too, Pritzker. Municipal League or one of the conferences, and that's what he said, is that nobody's going to be let out of jail. I'm not sure how he says that, unless he's referring to the Department of Corrections in the state of Illinois, Joliet, and that system. Well, they're already convicted. This is talking about the county jail pretrial. And I don't know how he can say that, but it has nothing to do with women that have been detained, with their needs of diapers or formula or something. That's such a spin on what's actually happening. And again, these crimes that I just named, that's what we're talking about. I do not have any women up there that are being detained for diapers or formula. Not at all. We would not even detain them. They probably, if they're arrested, they would get a notice to appear for a date in court. If they're arrested.
Mm-hmm. And what about the aspect of if somebody decides to camp out in your backyard or live in your garage?
Yeah, that's very, very concerning. And I'll drill down on that a little bit. Is that somebody wants to live in your garage or camp in your backyard? We'll come and we'll ask them to leave, and we'll write them a ticket, a notice to appear. Hey, you got to leave. Can't use force to get them off the property. Right now, it's being looked at, but it hasn't been determined. If it's a lawful order by a law enforcement officer, is that obstructing? Can we use force? There's a caveat there, maybe, but that still has to be determined. So now I understand that, and again, this is all open for the appellate court. The homeowner would have to start, eviction processes. That doesn't make sense at all. Keep the garage door shut, I guess, right?
Well, right. So somebody comes into my restaurant and they are being obstreperous in some way, and I call the police. I say, I've asked this person politely to leave. They won't leave. You come, and then they ask him to leave. Maybe they write a ticket, but that's it. Then it's up. That's what I understand, and then it's up to me to decide what to do with him after the police ticket him.
Right, exactly. It's up to you and what degree of threat that you feel and what force you can use. But remember, you'll be held accountable too. So basically this law has strategically made the victims have no rights, the criminal have all rights, and law enforcement are the bad guys. Basically, that's exactly what happened.
Have you've been talking, I assume, to your deputies about the use of force under this law were it to take effect January 1? What are those conversations like?
Well, exactly this. It's just what we're saying. You have to make sure that you document everything, make sure that everything on your probable cause statement that is spelled out completely. So when it does go to the state's attorney's office, that they have enough to provide to the judicial system that if they could be lodged, or the risk of flight. And again, we're all on body cams, which I'm glad we are, because it preserves the truth. And most of the time, if not, I can't say there's enough than 100%, but 98% of the time, law enforcement's doing their job and very professional. But I'm telling them, make sure that you follow the T of the law properly, and if you feel threatened, then that's where you take action. But again, that is going to be scrutinized 100% as we move down the road. As you've seen in the videos that the mainstream media is playing, you never see the other side of it. It's just saying that the deputies or law enforcement had to use force in this situation, and they're going right at law enforcement. And, again, these people are heroes to do what they're doing out there on the street every day.
And talk a little bit, too, because Jim Glasgow, the Will County State's Attorney, has mentioned this idea that if these guys walk and they don't show up, then I have to get order to show cause, to get a bench warrant, to arrest them. Just the whole process of bringing them in, letting them go, then trying to get them back if they aren't abiding the terms of their release, and it just sort of wreaks havoc on the system and the resources available, particularly when you're talking about individuals charged with violent offenses.
Well, exactly. Unfunded mandates, basically. The system, it's burdening the system throughout the criminal justice system completely. I mean, in judicial and law enforcement. But you hit it right on the head. At what point you ask them, okay, so you have, let's take aggravated battery or robbery. So the state must prove the highest level of burden of proof that they're at risk of flight, which is very hard to do based on their criminal history, this, and the other. So now they go free, and they don't show up for their June 10th court date. And so now law enforcement, us, have to go out, find them, and then issue them a notice to appear, basically saying, hey, look, you missed your court date on June 10th. Here's another one on July 10th. Please be there. And they miss that one, then the warrant is issued. So that's two times that we have to find this individual and then serve them this, and then go out and get them. And if they continue to miss it, what do they go into the obelisk? At what point are they held accountable to have to answer to the people of the state of Illinois?
So this is from Injustice Watch. Okay, Injustice Watch is a proponent of the Safety Act. This is what they say in terms of describing it. A defendant can only be detained in jail pretrial if they're charged with a specific type of felony like murder and sexual assault, and if prosecutors prove to a judge that the defendant is a flight risk or poses a specific real and present threat to any person or the community. But that's the any person piece. This is both with respect to the rules of engagement for police as well as with respect to detaining anyone pre-trial. You have to be it cannot be my read and the read from all these prosecutors that are opposed to it. It cannot be just you make just a general argument that this person committed a violent act and they pose a general threat to the community because of that violent act and perhaps any past violent acts, although the past violent acts can't be used to inform the present violent act, so that's off the table too. But anyway, a specific person. So this is and this has been used, by many, but I'll use it again. So the person who is charged with attempted murder, we have a specific person, the person that they attempted to murder. The person that's charged with murder, they're not a specific threat to anybody in the community necessarily because they already got the person that they were a threat to. Right. You're reading it right. So I mean, and it's the same thing with police if they're involved in a confrontation that escalates violently, like somebody whips out a gun. That's the same. They have to go through the same calculus too about is this person, if they're fleeing, can I chase them? Do they pose a threat to the community? Or can I just let them run away and then we'll come back later and pick them up if we can find them?
Well, I think what the state needs to do is to a specific person, and I think these prosecutors need to take into account of persons, meaning the community, and do they pose a threat to the community? I think that's where we can engage. But again, I've told my deputies, and we have a matrix of when we allowed for chasing a fleeing vehicle is time, date, what's the safety and stuff like that. We'll shut it down. But I'm not going to take that tool away from them and say you're not going to be able to chase out. Absolutely, I cannot do that as a good law enforcement. Now, I want to take into account the safety of the community and what's going on at the time and place and weather. And again, time of date. But I think the state needs to prove, and I think the prosecutors are looking at, that caveat of persons, meaning the community, because you can take somebody in a domestic, shooting the other spouse and killing them. Well, then that specific threat is gone because that person's gone. Correct?
Right. And the argument that's being made by, again, the proponents here, I'll try to address their argument, that this is the reason we're getting rid of cash bail and the reason, I guess, we're putting police on their hind legs is because things have been unfair to people who are on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, and this is a way to balance the scales.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't agree with it. Obviously, being in law enforcement and the sheriff, I don't. If you're going to go out and commit a crime, and I feel like society now has become like frogs in the cool water, and it's getting hotter and hotter. We become desensitized and accepting that baseline of acceptance of saying, hey, look, we don't need a cash bail because we're putting people that commit these crimes, they need to be treated fairly. Well, where's the victims' rights? How are they being treated fairly? I guess you can reverse that and say, well, somebody that has committed a heinous crime can bond out if they have money. I suppose that is the truth there. But where's the victims' rights when you say that? It's if you do this crime, this is where you're held accountable by the state, and you need to be held accountable. You need to show up for court. You need your sentence, complete your sentence. And here, listen, when we're in my jail, we have programs to help them get off these dangerous drugs, to help them rehabilitate themselves, at least try, and help them get on their feet as they move down the road. Well, now you're taking that ability for law enforcement, corrections, to help them go back in the community. Now you're just taking them and going out, and what is the chances of them reoffending immediately after they're held on bond? I think it's very high.
Yeah, well, we've seen that play out in Cook County for the number of people who've on electronic monitoring who've committed crimes, violent crimes, while on electronic monitoring, awaiting trial for felony charges. In another matter,
they get to go stay out for 48 hours.
The other thing too about this crying poor or crying on behalf of the so-called poor, this is judicial discretion too. Prosecutors and public defenders, they make arguments before a judge about bond. So if somebody's a billionaire and they've got 4 homes around the world and they're accused of murder, surrender your passport. Maybe they do hold them without bond because they're a flight risk because of their resources. So you take each defendant in context of the flight risk they pose, the resources they have that speak to flight risk, and so on and so forth. So you have somebody that doesn't have resources or has limited resources will often get a lower bond than somebody that does for the same crime because the judges are trying to balance the scale. But that seems to me something that needs to be adjudicated in an adversarial setting with a judge exercising his or her discretion.
Correct, 100%. I've had one of the state reps say, well, people are losing their homes and their families and, because they're incarcerated for this crime. It's confusing because, okay, so somebody that commits a crime and continues to commit a crime, we have to let them out and go back out to commit another crime. Well, when this person is committing this crime, aren't they thinking of their families and losing their families and their livelihood? I mean, some of these arguments just do not make sense at all. It's just an argument, just as
They really do not.
And it doesn't protect police either. I mean, anybody can call up and allege anything against a police officer, and nothing will get expunged from their record ever if this stays the way it's written.
Right, exactly. You hit it right on the head. And we have to go to LSB, the Training and Standards Board, and make sure everybody's, and which is fine. I have no problem making sure everybody's trained and certified. I want the most professional officer out there, the most educated and can think their way through cerebrally to make sure that these things don't happen. That's fine. But when you have an anonymous complaint and all of a sudden it goes into their file, and we can't even question as a citizen who's our accuser and what exactly happened. And that's why I'm very happy we're on body cams. And all my deputies never did a pushback at all and in corrections because it preserves the truth, and here it is. I've had people from the street say, well, this officer did this, and this. Well, come on in. We'll view the video and then see what exactly happened, and then we'll deal with it from that point. Oh, you're on body cams? Because they're very hard to see because they're on the vest. And, yeah, we are. That's all right. Forget it. They don't show up.
He is Gary Caruana. He's the Winnebago County Sheriff out Rockford Way, Winnebago County. Gary, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, good chatting with you. Thanks. You guys have a great day.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM560. The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Our kids are the future and should not be left behind. One person should not decide what is the best for our 77 communities. Politicians must work together for our kids' best interest. They deserve a safe education with resources that meet every student need. Let's rebuild and restore Chicago. Vote for me for mayor of Chicago. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
Now, another satisfied client of Turnkey.
Hi, this is Pastor Calvin from Christian Liberty in Arlington Heights, Illinois. Two important aspects of business and life are trust and relationships. A very important new relationship that we have made is with Turnkey. We heard their ads for several years, and this summer we took an important step to start a relationship with them so that they could help us grow our homeschool academy. We have found with Turnkey something very vital, and that is trust. We have connected very well because we operate on the same principles of faith and truth. They are helping us with strategy and with implementation of new ideas. If you are running a business or ministry, I would strongly encourage you to consider working with